I'll get to Texas state attorney in just a moment, but we want to focus on Katie and her baby and what's going on here. She already has two kids. She obviously didn't want to have an abortion, but the baby is either going to die in the womb or only survive a couple of days after it's given birth. And also, if she continues on with this pregnancy, it can further complicate her ever being able to have kids in the future. So, with that information given out to you folks, obviously, no matter what abortion ban is out there, you would say she is justified for seeking an abortion. Not only is it causing her harm currently and in the future, unfortunately, the baby is not going to be viable. Now, some people carry births to term, knowing that the baby is going to either be stillborn or die a few days later. I can't speak for other people. I can say for me, I think that's more damaging to life than terminating the pregnancy and having the baby go through that, right? Because the baby can't tell you what pain that they're going through. They can't tell you how they're dealing with whatever is the few couple of days that they have. I mean, I think that's torturous. Personally, I believe that that's torturous. But I believe everybody should have a choice. I believe in abortion rights. So am I biased? Sure, I'm a little biased. Do I understand that everybody says there is a right to life? Sure. And in some arguments, I can't disagree with that. But in this particular case, it feels like Katie Cox has a pretty good case to get an abortion. Mind you, she's already 20 weeks pregnant, right? So she's already 5 months in. She's in her second trimester. At a certain point, it's going to be tougher and tougher for them to terminate the pregnancy uh, as long as the Supreme Court holds off on its ruling. So you, most people out there, and even practical Republicans in the state of Texas are saying, hey, look, we don't necessarily agree with abortion. We don't support abortion, but we understand in this circumstance why abortion is appropriate. Of course, you have some other Republicans in the state of Texas, conservatives in the state of Texas, who are saying absolutely not. She should be giving birth to that baby and the right to life. Now I want to get to the state attorney. Me and my sister have talked about the state attorney before. Y'all know him as Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton is the attorney general in Texas. His capacity in the state is to represent the state in legal matters, including lawsuits challenging state laws. That's his job. I get it. He is responsible for defending the state's law in this abortion case. His argument, his main argument has been, well, she's not really been affected and it's not really affecting her life. She's been discharged from the hospital. Let me tell you all a little story about an ex-girlfriend of mine. Maybe she's watching, maybe she's not. We have our issues, but I still think that she's a remarkable woman. She has a daughter. I haven't spoken to her in probably about a year and a half. I don't know if she has any new kids, but I know for a fact that she has a daughter. Her daughter is probably around 5 or 6 right now. Her and her boyfriend, you know, were pregnant and they were together but weren't living together. She was living in a little apartment not far from the hospital that they were going to have the baby at. So she started feeling pain and thought that she was going into labor. So she went to the hospital. The hospital is like, no, you're not going into labor. You're fine. You're just having some pains. Go on back home and come back. They basically told her, come back when, it's more serious or when you're actually getting ready to have the baby. So she goes back home and the pain gets worse and worse. And they already sent her home for the pain that she's had, saying that she's not giving birth. Well, guess what? She went to lay down in the bathtub and she gave birth all on her own. The hospital sent her home saying that she wasn't going to be giving birth, but yet she gave birth on her own in the tub of her apartment. called her boyfriend. They wrapped the baby up, umbilical cord still attached to him, went to the hospital and did everything that they needed to do. The hospital messed up. Doctors aren't always right. That's the reason why they call it practicing medicine, right? Nurses and that extends to nurses and everybody else. It's practicing medicine. People make mistakes. So Ken Paxton is basing his argument that she shouldn't, Miss Cox should not have an abortion because it's not a threat to her life, and that the hospital has already sent her home 4 times. Never mind the fact that she's had to go to the hospital 4 times due to this pregnancy. Never mind the fact that this pregnancy could cause her not to have future kids. She wants future kids. Like I said, she has 2 already, 1, 3, and 1. All right. They wanted to have this baby. It's unfortunate that the baby has Edwards syndrome. It's not a viable pregnancy. But you have Ken Paxton arguing, well, the hospital sent her home. And if Ken Paxton was an honorable attorney that was defending the rights of the states and didn't have personal biases that were influencing his particular position, I would say, okay, I rock with him. But we know that's not the case. We know this man to have many investigations against him. What are his legal troubles? He was recently acquitted in the state Senate of 16 articles of impeachment because of various different federal investigations in Texas. He has security fraud charges. He's accused of defrauding investors by encouraging them to fund a tech startup that he was, unbeknownst to them, being paid to promote. The felony is punishable for up to 99 years of prison. And even if Paxton is convicted and put on probation, he will lose his legal license. So he was acquitted in the Senate for the federal investigation in Texas that he was under for since 2020. Just a little side note, his wife is a senator. So he was going to be acquitted of those charges. But this dude but he still has a securities fraud, and that's a federal offense that he's still dealing with. This guy is a shady individual. And if you do any little bit of research on him, he's a public outspoken figure in the state of Texas. He's not a good guy. I don't know him personally. I said earlier, we can't make these outlandish accusations, right? I know I just said that, and I'm sounding like a hypocrite. But all of his actions make it seem as if he's not a good person. He's been under investigation several times. And in this particular case, yes, he is defending the state law, but every prosecutor has a right to look at the facts of the case and determine whether it should be charges, whether they should follow through the case, or if they should drop the case. She was already granted permission to get an abortion from a district judge. He forced the Supreme Court to make a decision, and the Supreme Court is like, we need a little bit more time to review the case. Meanwhile, this woman has already been to the hospital 4 times dealing with this pregnancy, a pregnancy of a child that will not last a week. We talk about the right to life. What about the right not to suffer? If you like that clip, go ahead and hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to catch up on all of our latest content. Don't forget to hit the notification button when you do subscribe so you can get updated every time we release content. We release content every day, whether it's an actual show or clips from the shows. So go ahead and subscribe, like, comment. Also, don't forget our Patreon page where you can find our Talking Straight-ish and After Hours Uncensored episodes. That's patreon.com/unsolicited perspectives. But once again, thank you again for listening to Unsolicited Perspectives. I'm your host, Bruce Anthony, and I'm going to catch you next time. I'll holla.